Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. There's a special kind of person who says, "I'm not asking for much," and then proceeds to demand everything you own, everything you love, and possibly your firstborn child. Today in the rLounge, all fair game as long as it suits them. Up first, just because you want it doesn't make it yours. Mother-in-law demands I give my baby to sister-in-law because she needs it more than I do, so we banned her and ghosted her. After 2 years of trying, my husband and I finally got the news we'd been hoping for. I was pregnant. We were absolutely over the moon, but decided to keep it to ourselves until the 12-week mark, just to be safe. Those early weeks were rough and with morning sickness that lasted all day, but I was so happy I barely complained. During this time, we had dinner with my husband's family. My sister-in-law announced that she and her husband had been trying for a baby for 5 years with no success. My mother-in-law made this huge show of comforting her, saying things like she'd be such a wonderful mother someday and it would happen when the time was right. Sister-in-law mentioned they were considering fertility treatments but couldn't afford them right now. Mother-in-law spent the entire evening fawning over her, which wasn't unusual. Sister-in-law had always been the golden child. Our first prenatal appointment confirmed everything was going well with the pregnancy. My husband and I started secretly planning the nursery, picking out paint colors and furniture. We were so excited we could barely contain it, which made waiting to tell everyone even harder. When we reached the 12-week mark, we called my parents first. They were thrilled and immediately started talking about coming to visit after the baby was born. My mom cried happy tears and my dad kept saying he couldn't wait to be a grandpa. Their reaction was everything we'd hoped for. We decided to invite my husband's family over for dinner to share our news in person. I made a nice meal and even bought a little grandma and grandpa and aunt mugs as gifts to announce the pregnancy. I thought they'd be excited. I was wrong. When we told them, mother-in-law barely congratulated us. She just said, "That's nice," and quickly changed the subject to some neighborhood gossip. Sister-in-law excused herself to the bathroom and didn't return for 20 minutes. When she came back, her eyes were red and puffy. Father-in-law seemed genuinely happy but kept glancing nervously at sister-in-law and mother-in-law. The mugs stayed wrapped on the table. No one opened them. The next day, mother-in-law called me directly. She suggested that since sister-in-law had been trying longer, we should consider our options and hinted at adoption within the family. I was so shocked I just hung up and immediately called my husband. He couldn't believe his mother would suggest such a thing and promised to talk to her. When he called her the next day, she claimed I had misunderstood and she was just suggesting we be sensitive around sister-in-law because of her fertility struggles. A few weeks later, we had our gender reveal ultrasound and found out we were having a girl. We shared the news in the family group chat with a cute ultrasound picture. Everyone responded with congratulations except sister-in-law, who immediately left the chat without saying anything. Then mother-in-law texted me separately saying this was sister-in-law's dream and we were being cruel. I showed my husband and we agreed to limit contact with his family until they could be supportive. We muted the family chat but didn't block anyone yet, hoping they'd come around once they had time to process everything. We just started planning the baby shower. I sent invitations to everyone including mother-in-law and sister-in-law, hoping they'd change their attitude. The day after the invitations went out, mother-in-law called my husband and asked if we'd thought more about what's best for the baby. When pressed, she explicitly suggested we should give our baby to sister-in-law since she's wanted one longer and wouldn't appreciate it more. My husband was livid and ended the call. Despite all this, they both showed up to the baby shower, 45 minutes late. Sister-in-law brought a gift, a onesie with Auntie's little girl, and her own name embroidered on it. Mother-in-law made loud comments about how sister-in-law would make such a wonderful mother and how some people just aren't cut out for parenthood while looking directly at me. My mother overheard and nearly caused a scene before my dad pulled her aside to calm her down. The day after the shower, I received a text from mother-in-law saying sister-in-law cried all night. I was being selfish and she needed this baby, and I could always have another one. I took screenshots and showed my husband. We decided to block mother-in-law on our phones but keep sister-in-law unblocked in case she wanted to apologize. But no apology came. Instead, 2 weeks later, sister-in-law showed up at our house unannounced with a folder of adoption paperwork. She tearfully explained that mother-in-law had promised her we were considering it, and she just wanted to make it easier for us. I was so angry I slammed the door in her face while my husband called mother-in-law to rage at her. Mother-in-law defended herself saying we were too young and not ready while sister-in-law had a proper home for a child. The next day, we received a group text from father-in-law apologizing for his wife and daughter's behavior. He said mother-in-law had been telling extended family we were giving up the baby because we couldn't handle parenthood. My husband and I immediately posted on social media clarifying we were keeping our baby and excited to be parents. When I was about 7 months pregnant, We discovered mother-in-law had been telling people at her church that I was a surrogate for sister-in-law. Several church members had reached out to congratulate sister-in-law on her upcoming blessing. Father-in-law contacted us to warn that mother-in-law and sister-in-law were planning to be at the hospital when I delivered. My husband confronted his father about enabling this behavior. Father-in-law broke down and admitted mother-in-law had become obsessed with giving sister-in-law a baby. We told father-in-law he was welcome in our lives if he stood up to mother-in-law, but we were completely cutting off mother-in-law and sister-in-law. When our baby finally arrived, she was healthy and perfect. Hospital security had to remove mother-in-law, who showed up claiming to be my mother. We didn't inform any of my husband's family about the birth for 48 hours to ensure we had peace and privacy. Once we got home with the baby, we received a barrage of texts from mother-in-law demanding photos and visiting rights. About a week later, father-in-law visited alone to meet his granddaughter. He brought a letter from mother-in-law stating she'd forgive us if we reconsidered and at least let sister-in-law co-parent since she needed this more than we did. My husband took the letter, tore it up, and told father-in-law this was his only chance to choose his granddaughter over his wife's delusions. Father-in-law promised to get mother-in-law help and maintain separate contact with us. I still can't believe I'm dealing with this situation. When my husband and I decided to start a family, I never imagined his mother would expect us to hand our baby over to his sister. The entitlement is astounding. The most disturbing part is how they seem to view our daughter as an object to be passed around rather than a human being. They talk about her like she's a doll they can claim ownership of. Mother-in-law keeps referring to our baby as the baby or sister-in-law's baby, never acknowledging that she's our child. I worry what will happen as our daughter grows up. Will mother-in-law and sister-in-law try to turn her against us? Will they feed her lies about how we kept her from her real mother? The thought makes me sick. My husband is devastated by his family's behavior. He always knew his mother favored his sister, but he never imagined she'd try to take his child from him. He's been incredibly supportive and protective, but I know this is taking a toll on him. Father-in-law is caught in the middle. He seems genuinely sorry about what's happening, but he's been enabling mother-in-law's behavior for decades. I'm not sure if he'll ever fully stand up to her, but at least he's making an effort to maintain a relationship with us and his granddaughter. My own parents are furious. My mom wanted to confront mother-in-law directly, but we convinced her that would only make things worse. They've been our rock through all of this, helping with the baby and providing emotional support when we need it most. We've had to take several practical steps to protect ourselves. Beyond the security cameras and hospital password system, we've locked down our social media accounts, informed our neighbors about the situation, and made sure our daughter's daycare, when the time comes, knows exactly who is and isn't allowed to pick her up. For now, we're maintaining strict no contact with mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Father-in-law can visit as long as he doesn't bring them or share information about us with them. I sometimes wonder if sister-in-law will ever get the help she needs to process her fertility issues in a healthy way. It's sad that she's let her mother convince her that taking our baby is the solution. I hope someday she realizes how inappropriate and hurtful her actions have been, but I'm not holding my breath. As for mother-in-law, I have no sympathy left. She's willing to destroy her relationship with her son and grandchild to satisfy this bizarre fixation on giving sister-in-law a baby. To mother-in-law and sister-in-law, this baby was never yours to claim. She is our daughter, not a possession to be handed over because you think you deserve her more. Your entitlement has cost you a relationship with both her and us. That's on you, not us. Update. First, I want to thank everyone for the support of my original post. Many of you asked for an update. We discovered through a cousin that mother-in-law had been showing photos of our daughter around and claiming sister-in-law was the mother. At first, I couldn't figure out how she got these photos since we'd blocked her on everything. Then we realized the photos matched ones we'd sent to father-in-law. We confronted father-in-law, who admitted he didn't realize mother-in-law was accessing his phone when he wasn't looking. He felt terrible and promised to be more careful. He set up a secure app for photos and assured us he would never leave his phone unattended around mother-in-law again. The biggest shock came in early March when father-in-law called to tell us that he had moved out and filed for divorce. He said mother-in-law's obsession had escalated to planning a nursery in their house and buying baby clothes. She'd even started telling neighbors they would be getting custody of their grandbaby soon. Father-in-law said he couldn't take it anymore. He tried to get her to see a therapist, but she refused, insisting there was nothing wrong with her. Even more surprising, sister-in-law's husband had apparently threatened separation if she didn't stop going along with mother-in-law's delusions. According to father-in-law, this finally woke sister-in-law up to how serious the situation had become. With our daughter's first birthday approaching, we decided to have a small celebration with just my family and father-in-law. We sent a clear message to extended family that mother-in-law and sister-in-law were not welcome, and anyone who brought them would be asked to leave. A few weeks after the birthday party, sister-in-law reached out separately with a long message claiming she was in therapy and realized how inappropriate everything had been. She said she was distancing herself from mother-in-law and wanted to apologize in person. While I appreciate that she might be getting help, we declined the in-person meeting. The trust is completely broken, and we acknowledged her message, but made it clear we aren't interested in rebuilding a relationship. The whole situation continues to be exhausting and frustrating. Just when we think mother-in-law can't get any more delusional, she proves us wrong. The silver lining is that both father-in-law and sister-in-law seem to be breaking free from her influence, though we're still keeping sister-in-law at arm's length. I've had people ask if we've considered moving away to get some distance, but why should we have to uproot our lives? We have a support system here with my family, and my husband's work situation makes relocating difficult. Father-in-law has been surprisingly supportive through all of this. The divorce seems to have given him clarity, and he's become much more assertive about standing up to mother-in-law. He visits our daughter regularly and is careful not to share any information or photos with mother-in-law. Some people have suggested we try to get a restraining order against mother-in-law, but so far, we haven't had enough evidence that she's an imminent threat. For now, we're continuing with our no-contact policy from mother-in-law. We've slightly more open communication from sister-in-law, but only via text or email, and only if she respects our boundaries. So far, she seems to be doing that, though we're still skeptical of her motives. What's truly disturbing is how confidently she acted like she had every right to your child, as if wanting a baby longer somehow makes sister-in-law the rightful owner. That logic is insane. Babies aren't charity prizes you hand to the person who tried the longest, and then there's your sister-in-law. Even if she was influenced by her mom, she still showed up at your door with adoption paperwork. She tried to claim a child that wasn't hers. That's not hurt feelings from infertility. That's participating in a deeply inappropriate fantasy that revolved around taking your baby. The fact that your mother-in-law built an entire narrative, told the church, told neighbors, extended family, even set up a nursery, is terrifying. What do you make of this? Up next, run like your deposit depends on it, because it does. Am I the a-hole for moving into a studio apartment away from my mother-in-law who moved in? Long story short, my boyfriend's mom is poor and had to move into my boyfriend and I's apartment last month because my boyfriend's brother, who lived with her, got them both evicted. He stole her car and wrecked it into their apartment and almost killed someone. He's currently in rehab, and before she moved in, I sat down with my boyfriend and laid out the requirements of her living here. She must cut off contact with his brother for his own good and never invite him over, as I'm afraid of retaliating at our apartment and getting us evicted too. And she should stop enabling him with a constant safety net to continue his drug use. I know that sounds harsh, but it was the only way to actually force him to get help. This has been an almost decade-long battle of her enabling him, and he's not getting any better. My boyfriend agreed to this, and she agreed. Cut to 2 weeks in. I come home from work. My boyfriend and her are laughing about how they took his brother to Golden Corral when I was gone, and he was so high, he was nodding off in the food. I was so upset that not only did she break the cardinal rule that I set for her, but that my boyfriend went along with it and did it too. I told him I felt betrayed and that he just set a precedent to her that she can do whatever she wants now because any rule set isn't actually going to be enforced, clearly by his example. He told me he did it because he thought it was too harsh after the fact without telling me he had changed his mind and thereby going against our agreement. I otherwise wouldn't have let her live here rent-free. My boyfriend said putting her on the street was too harsh of a punishment for breaking the rules. But isn't that the point? Now she's telling us we need to do her chores when we pay for the rent because she doesn't want to do them, knowing he won't enforce or kick her out because he ultimately can't face the guilt of doing so. He has attachment issues with her and a heavy guilt complex. Our apartment lease is up in a couple months, and now that we're moving, she asked us, "So where are we moving to?" fully expecting a free ride and free rent at our next place. I was so dumbfounded because she's only supposed to be here until she got housing, but low-income housing wait lists can be months to years long. I don't want to live with her anymore because she walks all over us and causes tension between my boyfriend and I. He will never put her on the street because he's controlled by his guilt. When I asked what he plans to do, he said he isn't taking her to our next place, but that would ultimately leave her on the street, and I know deep down, even if we initially move without her, she'll be back in a week or two because he'll feel guilty. I want to move into a studio apartment now, knowing that I don't believe him, that he's going to let her go. And I've voiced this as a real possibility to him, but I'm being framed as trying to dismantle our relationship. Am I the a-hole? Let's see what the community says. First up, not the a-hole. Don't sign a lease with him again. His word about how he'll handle his mother is worth less than nothing. She'll be back. Next person says, reread your post, please. You are obviously not the a-hole, but you will be to yourself if you move with him. Get your own place and let him date his mother in peace. One more comment. You got more than one issue. He's a mama's boy. His mom moved in and they both enable their brother's son, who is a serious drug addict. Cut your losses. You aren't married to him and hopefully do not have kids with him. Dump him and don't let them contact you again. These are not your issues to deal with. Let them deal with the consequences and move on. Let them hit rock bottom on their own. Otherwise, they will never stop enabling him. Why would you willingly relive the situation when he's showing you that he'll cave to guilt every single time? If you move together, you just end up with her living with you again, whether it's one day or day 15. You're not dismantling the relationship by looking out for yourself. You're recognizing that your partner's choices are already doing that. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Share it with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please, put your chair back where you found it